Discernment in an age of saturation. Why the truth problem is a consciousness problem. If it seems like everyone is arguing, no one is listening, and reality itself seems fractured, you're not imagining things. In this so-called information age, the problem isn't that people don't have access to information. They do. It's that we are saturated beyond our capacity to process it, including separating truths from untruths. What does get processed is filtered. This is what the human mind has always done to survive. It filters. Yet, then it confuses the filter for reality. You are not a camera, you are a filter. One of the most consistent patterns throughout human history is this. Two groups can hold completely opposite beliefs, and both will be absolutely certain they are right. Each side will insist the evidence is overwhelming. Each side will accuse the other of being blind, corrupt, or dangerous. Each side will feel morally justified in their certainty. However, the truth is usually somewhere in between, sometimes smack dab in the middle. Therefore, neither is right. But why is it so hard for anyone to see it? Because human perception does not work by passively recording reality. It works by selection. Your nervous system is constantly scanning an overwhelming environment and deciding what matters to you, what doesn't, what is safe, what is threatening, what aligns with your identity, what must be ignored. This process happens largely below conscious awareness. That's why the word subconscious rather than unconscious will be a better word choice in this context. Unconscious can sound sealed off, unreachable. Subconscious reminds us this material is closer, beneath awareness, but accessible, not gone, just unattended. There's a reason you can hear your name across a noisy room or hone in on the conversation you're having with someone right in front of you and blur out the 50 other conversations being had within earshot. That filtering mechanism serves a purpose. Your brain is filtering for what has value to you. When we are saturated with information constantly, like we are now more than ever, the mind reaches for stability. It wants simplified narratives, rigid belief systems, tribal alignment, and moral certainty. Not because people are stupid, because ambiguity is expensive to the nervous system. Uncertainty burns energy. Complexity feels unsafe. So the psyche collapses the question into a story. And once that story stabilizes the system, it becomes protected, often aggressively. Under stress, we don't become more rational, we become more certain. This is the part people don't like to hear. When the system is overwhelmed, reasoning does not improve. It narrows. At that point, beliefs stop being about truth and start serving other functions, like eliminating discomfort, preserving identity, securing belonging, maintaining a sense of control, feeling morally superior, or gaining leverage over others. This happens everywhere, in politics, in medicine, in spirituality, in alternative spaces, just as much as mainstream ones. And here's the rub. Most people can instantly recognize this pattern in others. Very few can see it in themselves. Consciousness is not a vibe, it's a function. Consciousness is not something you arrive at or a belief system. It's the ability to notice what is happening inside you as it happens, before it becomes your personality, your opinions, and your actions. This is important because most of what drives us is not conscious choice. It's largely subconscious automation, perhaps upwards of 90%. If you only work with the thoughts you're aware of, you are training the smallest part of the system and wondering why the deeper pattern keeps winning. So when we say people can't see what's right in front of them, the truth is that they can't see it because something inside them has already decided what is allowed to be seen. That's not a character flaw, though. It's a survival mechanism. But if you want sovereignty, if you want discernment, you have to outgrow being run by that mechanism. The work isn't to win arguments, for instance. The work is to become aware of the part of you that needs to win arguments. Incidentally, the meaning of argument is the act or process of arguing, reasoning, or discussing. Why what's wrong out there is the wrong starting point. Yes, there are real problems in the world. Yes, there is manipulation, propaganda, corruption, and harm. We live in a dualistic reality. Therefore, obsessing over what's wrong out there while ignoring what's unexamined in here is how people become programmable while believing they're awake. If you haven't done the inner work, your filters and biases are invisible to you. Your certainty feels like truth. Your emotional reactions feel like insight. That is why pointing fingers rarely helps, because the real battleground is not information, it's awareness. Discernment requires nervous system capacity. That is what's rarely acknowledged, is you cannot discern clearly if your system is overwhelmed. When the body is inflamed, depleted, toxic, or chronically stressed, attention shrinks, emotional reactivity increases, pattern recognition degrades, and ambiguity tolerance collapses. This is not a moral failure, it's biology. At Human Consciousness Support, we focus on clearing out toxins. Supporting the physical body by reducing burden, clearing noise, restoring balance doesn't replace inner work, but it often makes inner work more possible. Some MasterPeace testimonials are as follows. I have experienced a significant decrease in my anger level, I believe by removing a lot of heavy metals from my brain. Everyone noticed, so a kudos is in order for you all. Another testimonial says, I am doing 2 drops 3 times a day. I can send you reasons if you're wondering why. It just seems to work better for my body that way. The initial super happy has settled into content and not responding to negative things thrown at me with anger and despair. I have even ended a long-time relationship that I needed to with no regret or anger. I wish the person well, but just not with me. So when the system has more clarity and bandwidth, people can observe themselves more honestly, tolerate uncertainty longer, notice when identity is hijacking perception, and update beliefs without collapse. MasterPeace is one tool we use to support that internal clarity, helping reduce physical interference so the brain and nervous system can function with more resilience and coherence. It doesn't give you truth, it supports the conditions in which discernment can emerge. A reality check and an invitation. If you are constantly outraged, constantly certain, constantly explaining why everyone else is blind, you might not be seeing more. You are very likely seeing less through a narrower filter that feels convincing because it stabilizes your system. Discernment isn't had by consuming more content. It's about consuming less, seeing more clearly, strengthening your internal signal, and learning to notice the moment your system reaches for certainty to feel safe. Truth is a relationship, not a trophy. The goal isn't to win reality. In an age of information overload, the clearest sign of maturity is not certainty. It's disciplined perception. The first step toward disciplined perception is admitting something simple and unsettling. Your mind will reject some information. It will twist some, and it will preferentially absorb what it already believes. That isn't because you're broken. It's because you're a living, breathing man or woman. The work, real consciousness work, is learning to see the filter before the filter becomes your world.